Study skills are important to acquire, especially if you want to success in what you are learning. This video will help you think about study habits you have and how to get rid of or improve them. Do you spend too much time studying? Spending too much time studying for what you are learning can have a negative effect. Not only does it take up more of your valuable time, but it also can make it more difficult to retain information. To correct this study habit, try different studying methods to help you retain information in a shorter amount of time. Do you usually spend hours cramming the night before an exam? Cramming just before an exam may allow you to remember information in the short term and enable you to take in enough information for the exam. However, this most likely means that you'll have no lasting connections to the knowledge, and you won't develop any deep understanding of the information. Instead of cramming, set aside study time each week to go over notes and class information. Do you balance your academic life with your social life? Being a student, especially a college student, means you have to learn how to manage your time. If you feel that you are studying or doing academic work more than you are hanging out with friends or vice versa, you may need to purposely plan times to study and hang out with friends as well as be proactive with your academic life. For example, work on homework, study for tests, and work ahead on projects so that you don't have to spend a lot of time right before an assignment or project is due or right before a test working on academics. Make sure you schedule both academic and personal time in your calendar each week so that you know you have a balance between them. Do you study with either music or the TV turned on? Some people are better at studying with background noise than others. If you need white noise in the background, try different types of music, such as upbeat, calming, or instrumental music to see what works best for you. Do you take breaks when studying or doing academic work? Some academic tasks take a certain amount of time to complete, which is to be expected. If you have a longer assignment or project to work on or a lot of information to study, then you need to make sure to build in breaks so you don't get stressed out. For example, you can work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. There are many timers online or on your devices, so try using those to make sure you take a break, even if you don't feel like you need one. If you find that you often get distracted or have a hard time focusing while working on academics, there are a couple options. There are some websites that will block out distractions for a set amount of time so you are able to concentrate on one task. You can also put away as many distractions as possible, such as turning off your phone or putting it out of reach. You could also set up a rewarding activity for during your break, such as playing a game on your phone or getting a snack so that you have something to look forward to on your break. Do you go to class but usually doodle, daydream, or fall asleep? Consider why you have a hard time concentrating in class, such as the class material isn't something that interests you or that the class is at 8 a.m. Once you know why you have a hard time concentrating in class, it will be easier to find out how to overcome this negative habit. If you aren't interested in the class material, look for ways to make it more interesting, such as talking to the instructor or professor to see why the material is interesting to them, or try to see how the information applies to your current or future life. If you have an early class and you either skip class or fall asleep during class, try changing your sleep schedule to go to bed earlier or try taking a nap during the day so you aren't as tired. If you aren't a morning person, try to schedule classes that aren't in the morning or take online classes when possible. Do you lose a lot of points on tests, even when you know the material well? It may be in how you study. Professors may give short answer and essay questions on quizzes and tests to see how well students have grasped course concepts, their meanings, and significance. When studying, make sure that you go beyond memorizing information. Make sure that you are able to apply information you have learned. For example, instead of just memorizing a math equation, make sure you know what each part of the equation means and how to solve the equation. Do you study enough for your test, but your mind goes blank when you get there? This is a common experience. It happens because of the way our brain takes in, stores, and then recovers learned information. There are 3 phases to learning and remembering something new: acquisition, consolidation, and retrieval. Acquisition happens when you encounter a new piece of information. Consolidation is when experiences, especially those linked to strong emotions, are encoded and stored. Retrieval is when the information is pulled from storage, and you remember it later. To overcome blanking out when getting to a test, create your own tests and quizzes and practice taking them, just like you would take the actual test or quiz. Do you often study in a haphazard, disorganized way? An unorganized or messy study area can be a distraction. Whether it's not being able to find the right paperwork or a stinky smell from old food, study space that is unorganized will also be ineffective. Try to study in a space that has some sense of organization, even if it means leaving your room to go to the library. You should also make sure that your notes and study tools are organized and that your study table is also organized and void of any distractions. Do you remember what you've read when you get to the end of a chapter? The conscious mind, also called short-term memory, it stores information for the short term even when we read particular news after information we'll forget. Your brain can't store everything, and so it has to make decisions about what's important and will need to be used later. To overcome this, make text annotations in your textbook as you read, or take notes. Most textbooks also have chapter questions at the beginning or end of the chapter, so use those questions to guide your reading. Do you know how to pick out what is important in the text? Structure and organization of texts help readers understand what's most important by grouping related information together. Headings, subheadings, chapter titles, highlighted vocabulary, all of these features guide readers to find and remember the most important information. As noted before, most textbooks also have chapter questions at the beginning or end of the chapter, so use those questions to guide your reading. Do you fall behind in your readings and/or cram the night before a test? A good way to stay on top of your readings and assignments is to purposely schedule time each day or week to read or work on assignments. If you feel that you don't have time to do so, look at how you can rearrange your schedule to find time or how you can study better. This will also help you find more time to study in advance instead of cramming the night before. Do you have trouble identifying the main ideas of what you read? Finding the main idea of a piece of writing can be a challenge, but it is an essential reading comprehension skill for students to develop. It requires the reader to identify the topic of a piece of writing and then uncover what the writer wants us to know about that topic. To practice this skill, start by making note of chapter and section headings. These often provide insight about what the main idea of that section is. You should also pay attention to words and phrases that are bolded, italicized, and underlined. Do you change your reading speed based on the text's difficulty level or with your familiarity of the content? The technical content of the material, the print size, your familiarity with the subject and your purpose in reading can affect the speed at which you read. The more technical the material can be more difficult to read and take you longer to read, so reading it slowly to understand it or taking the time to look up unknown words is acceptable. As you get more familiar with the type of text you are reading as well as the content, you will be able to read it faster. Do you often wish that you could read faster? The process of speaking the words in your head as you read, called your inner monologue, is sometimes an obstacle that gets in the way of you being able to increase your reading speed. The more that you read, the more that you vary the type of texts that you read, and the more familiar you are with the content you are reading, the better chance you have of increasing your reading speed. Are your class notes difficult to understand later? Try not to write down every word. You can do this by creating your own shorthand and by using symbols and abbreviations. Revise your notes as soon as possible, within 24 hours after class if possible. If you do not understand something or feel that there is a gap in your notes, be sure to talk to a classmate or your instructor so that you do not fall behind in class. You can also see if the professor has uploaded a PowerPoint or class notes to your class module. If so, you can then add your own notes to these documents. Do you get the correct material into your notes? Learning what to put in your notes can be a difficult skill to learn, but once you pick up on some techniques, they can be used in any class. Some techniques include non-verbal cues from the professor, such as them pointing to parts of a chart, to verbal cues, such as the professor repeating certain information, to visual cues, such as what is on a PowerPoint. Do you review your notes periodically? Research has shown that reviewing your notes within 24 hours after a lecture shows the greatest rate of retaining information from the lecture. It also allows you to rewrite your notes so they are more complete as well as let you see what gaps in information or understanding you have so you can ask a classmate or your professor about it. Do you get so overwhelmed with writing assignments that you can't get started? There are times in life when you're going to feel overwhelmed, whether it be with work, school, social obligations or just life in general. If the writing assignment seems too long or has a lot of requirements, piece the assignment into smaller chunks that aren't as overwhelming. Give yourself deadlines of when to complete each task. For example, if you are writing a research paper, give yourself a deadline to find resources for your paper, and then give yourself a later deadline to go through your resources, and so on. If you are having writer's block and can't get the writing part of the assignment started, talk to your professor about how to overcome this, or look into tutoring or writing help that is available on your campus. Do you usually write your assignment the night before or the day they are due? This could be a good or bad habit, depending on the assignment. You want to make sure that you have enough time to conduct research or to utilize resources you have, such as asking your professor questions if you don't understand the assignment, or using a tutor or writing center assistance to revise your assignment, or an emergency may come up, preventing you from completing the assignment. You may also have difficulty submitting your assignment last minute electronically if the system is overloaded from other students using the site, or because the internet or electricity is down. It may be okay to be putting the final touches on the assignment the night before or the day that it is due, but waiting to start the assignment until last minute is a bad habit to get into. Do you have difficulty organizing your thoughts for writing your assignment? Start by thinking about your topic so you can pick your angle or pick your subtopics. Create an outline by writing down all your points you want to make. Then, start writing your assignment by turning your points into their own paragraphs. After your paper is mostly written, you can rearrange your paragraphs and add in transitions to complete your paper. Study skills will vary from person to person, and they take time to acquire. Practice your skills, and don't be afraid to try new ones when you find something that doesn't work for you. In closing, consider these questions. What skills do you need to work on? How can you reduce your stress when studying or working on assignments? Are you struggling to organize your thought into a paper? What resources do you have available to you to help you with studying?